Ladies and gentlemen, no amount of leadership will put things right. There are two other aspects that we Indians must know and we lack badly. One is discipline and the second is character. What is discipline? Discipline is a code of conduct for decent living in society, one with the other. Who lays down this code of conduct? Not the Prime Minister, not Parliament. Of course, it's laid down in the Army Act. But I'm not trying to impose the Army Act on you. This code of conduct has come to us from father to son, from mother to daughter, from times immemorial. It's in the Bible, it's in the Gita, it's in the words of Nanak, in the sayings of Muhammad and Buddha. It's all come down. It's been refined as cultures have changed. Again, let me illustrate this by example. Non-punctuality is an act of ill discipline which is injurious to the state, injurious to its people. Some time ago, sir, I was invited to an university, as also my wife, unlike today. I was called there at a convocation at 5 o'clock in the evening. And having been in the army for 50 years, telling the driver, go slow, go fast, arrived there at 5 o'clock in the evening. I was received by the Vice Chancellor and his lady, the Union Secretary, escorted to the dais. My wife too was asked to sit on the dais, and she politely refused, saying that she'd much rather sit down, as this is the only opportunity she has to look up to me. And as usual, I was garlanded. The Vice Chancellor sang my praises and asked me to talk to these people. There were about 5,000 boys and girls there, plus deans, plus professors, plus lecturers, everybody. And as I got up to get to the desk, to the lectern, the Vice Chancellor says to me, sotto voce, Field Marshal, a fortnight ago we had invited a VIP to the same function. He was allowed to stand at the lectern for exactly 15 seconds. I wish you good luck. I said to myself, had the Vice Chancellor said this in his letter of invitation, I wonder whether I would have come. Anyway, I got up to the lectern and I addressed the gathering for the amount of time that I was allowed. I was heard in pin-drop silence, and at the end of it, I got a thunderous applause. The Vice Chancellor and his lady, the deans, professors, lecturers, the student body, and even my wife stood up and gave me a standing ovation. I was most relieved. Although my wife told me afterwards that I looked pale. After the usual vote of thanks, etc., we went out into the gardens where refreshments were given. And I, having an eye for a pretty girl, walked up to a pert little thing wearing lovely jeans, tight-fitting, and I started a conversation which ran as follows. I said, my dear, why were you so kind to me today, all of you? I not having the looks of Rajesh Khanna or Amitabh Bachchan, or a speaker like M.G. Ramachandran, when only the other day you were so rude to a VIP. and she said, I quote, "Oh, Field Marshal, that dreadful man. We had invited him at 5 o'clock. He turned up at 6. He brought with him a bevy of security people who pushed us aside and took their places where we should be sitting. He brought with him 2 of his brats, grandchildren probably. He was too old to have those kids that size. But you never know. He was received by the Vice Chancellor and lady. He was the Union President garlanded him, and he demanded garlands for his 2 brats. The Union President, being very flexible, diverted the garlands for the Vice Chancellor and his lady to these brats. And then the Vice Chancellor sang his praises, saying how fortunate we were that he had come here, that he has done so much for the country. And all the while, this man sat there. He had come unwashed, unshaven, wearing a dhoti, exposing 4/5 of his leg, scratching away. And the Vice Chancellor said that the worthy had been to jail. When he said that, the girl said, I almost shouted he should be there now. Then the Vice Chancellor asked him to go to the lectern and to talk to us. So he picked up the lemonade or limca or whatever was there, which belonged to his female offspring, and took a sip, which started a howl. When that subsided, the worthy came to the lectern and said, friends and well-wishers, I have not had time to prepare my speech, but my secretary has written something for me, and he produced a whole heap of paper. He said, without any premeditation, without any thought, we made his stay very short. I unquote. Sir, I thank my lucky stars that 50 years in the army had made me come on time, that I'd been brought up to shave in the morning and shave in the evening if there was a function, that I had a lounge suit on, and although I have very nice legs, I didn't expose them, that I didn't suffer from itch or eczema to indulge in the scratching of the unmentionable. Now do you see what I mean by ill discipline? Had the worthy come on time, according to the program, talked to the people and given them advice, can you imagine what a lot of good it would have done? Instead of that, his act of ill discipline produced more ill discipline. Now this is not a matter to be laughed at and forgotten. We people in India are terribly ill disciplined. We think because we've got freedom that we can do what we like. I do not stop you from criticizing, to standing up for your rights. I think it's your duty to do it. But what I abhor are the acts that we've gone into because we've got freedom. Why do we have to spit pan all over? Why do we have to write on doors and things? Why do we have to keep staircases dirty and filthy? Why do we have to throw garbage in somebody else's compound? These are all acts of ill discipline. It is because of these acts of ill discipline that you have corruption, you have smuggling, you have all sorts of things. Even animals in Tanzania are better disciplined. I went there 4 years ago and I saw lions, lionesses, zebras, etc. They were all so disciplined. If the lion wanted to do his stuff, he went behind cover. He didn't spit. I came back from Tanzania. I arrived at Bombay airport. I cleared my baggage, and as I was walking out, there was a big, fat slob of a man who squirted dampan on my trousers. And when I gave him a tight kick, he was most indignant. He didn't think he'd done any wrong. Why? Why do we tolerate it? So much for discipline. I said character. By character, I don't mean the sort of thing which the father will preach to you. Of course you must be honest. Of course you must be truthful. Of course you mustn't covet thy neighbor's wife. Not when father is listening. Of course you mustn't. All that is part of character. But I mean something bigger. It's knowing yourself, knowing what you really are. Unfortunately, we lack that sort of character. And what little we have is denuded by our fans, by the sycophants around us, by the hangers-on. Again, let me illustrate this by an example. Some years ago, Hollywood produced a picture of the great violinist and composer Paganini. And they got a very handsome actor, tall, good actor, who had some knowledge of the violin, to take the part of Paganini. And he was drilled to perfection, so that when that little cadenza was played and screened, the critics raved over it, raved at the movement of his fingers and of his bow. And this man's fans, sycophants, hangers-on, went on telling him that he was greater than Menuhin, greater than Heifetz, greater than Chrysler. And the man started believing it. And it took 8 months in a psychiatric home to rid him of this delusion. Do you know, sir, after the 1971 conflict, my fans, my hangers-on, the sycophants around me kept telling me, "Sir, you are the greatest general the century has produced. You are better than Rommel. You are better than Guderian. Auchinleck was nothing." And just as I was beginning to believe it, the Prime Minister created me Field Marshal and sent me off to the Nilgiris. And a hard-headed, no-nonsense wife deprived one more inmate of a psychiatric home